And just by giving my attention to someone that I might not normally give my attention to, I can maybe get to level 8. So there's a way of listening where I be with the part of me which is just pissed off because they're wasting my time, but I'm still able to build my own capacity. So it's a kind of self-development, but it's more of a yin flavor.
I feel like I listen easy if people are sharing stories, emotion, or something real. But if we get into intellectual realms, they have to have my respect. Like, or else I feel like I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, circling can be about anything. I guess for me, it usually has this emphasis on trying to create space in conversation to talk about what we don't normally talk about, particularly in terms of our embodied experience. What sensations are going on in our body now? Can we make space for that? And it doesn't always have to be this like intense slowing down kind of vibe. But I think, steering away from intellectualizing all the time, and just holding more space for what's actually happening. It doesn't have to be generous in terms of giving our time to people we wouldn't normally. It can be about the same people conversing, but in a more embodied way. Conversing less from a place of head and less of a place of the competition of ideas, and more about like really trying to get someone's world, like what's actually happening for Christian now in this conversation.
I'm curious, how do we actually go there in conversations and relationships with people? How do we get under the surface?
How do we get under the surface? I think the first step for me is always going to be slowing down. So being willing to be in moments of silence and stillness, and having that, like making that space available to each other, like not needing to fill the silence with some impressive idea so often. I think when we can just like leave a couple of seconds after we say something that wants to emerge that wouldn't have got a chance to can sometimes come forwards a bit more organically. You want to swap chairs?
No, that's okay. Yeah, one of my best friends back in Denver, his main quality was he had so much spaciousness, like so much slowness, depth. And it's funny because some of my friends are like really like active, intellectually active, and that's fun. But he had this quality of bringing out parts of myself that were like the realest, that were the most tender. And I think it's because he cultivated that sense of spaciousness. But the thing I noticed about him too is he was most careful with who he gave energy to then. Because he didn't want to just hold space for people who are going to blather. So I think it goes both ways. It's like if there is going to be a circling or a deeply relational practice, I and most people don't want to hold space if this isn't going to actually be nourishing for like bringing part from the depths of people. So it is like, how can that become a standard? I don't know.
I think the question that you're asking speaks to the stage of circling practice, which is warrior, which is stage 3. So after we've established our sovereignty, and after we can explore from our curiosity, can we make those warrior moves in a conversation? Can we be willing to interrupt people when they're going on too long? And it's like integrating that warrior, that fighting spirit into... It's just like when we play the mind. It's like, now is the time for me to step into the leadership role, to ask the person a skillful question that I'm actually interested in, and redirect them in that way. And that's when the content gets more juicy. Yeah.
I think this is where leadership is so important and so like misunderstood in these spaces. I remember sitting in a sauna in like Guatemala a month ago, and there's like 25 people in there, and this, one person enters and is literally for 45 minutes straight just sharing stories out, like, right from her ego, taking up so much space, singing. And there's like this like culture of especially in the spiritual community where like all expression is good expression. It's a culture of openness and the celebration of like, take up space, because I think it's trying to heal from feeling maybe small or something. But I think everyone would have been so happy if there was a clear leader who was like, girl, like sit down, like feel, like notice. Some people just don't notice what's going on around them, like socially. And I think it's really important to have, I think of monasteries, in medieval Europe, is they always had an abbot. They always had something that was like facilitating and to clear leadership and authority within a space. And this is a problem because a lot of people want to be, it's interesting for me because a lot of people ask to be put in charge of things. I don't actually believe in people being put in charge of anything. I'm like, create it. Like create the space and you are in charge of it, right? And then people vote with their feet, kind of like, are you creating a good space? So yeah, it's I do think for more intentional space, I'm hesitant to join if there isn't clear leadership inside of it. Yeah.
If I could ask you a follow-up question,
Yeah.
if you're willing.
Yeah.
Could you speak to the balance of masculine and feminine traits in the leadership that you aspire to embody?
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is Lucas in the last couple of days, he's been talking a lot about tact as a quality of good leaders. And it's this sensitivity to the context and what's going on around us.
Yeah.
What's funny about that?
Well, it's funny you bring up tact from Lucas, because I feel like he sometimes lacks tact deeply.
It's ironic. Yeah.
The balance of masculine and feminine in leadership. I think my ideal, like, of leadership is someone who can inspire without needing to compel. He doesn't need to like control, and I think the masculine qualities of leadership are more so about like vision, creating and holding, like leading from the front, like demonstrating, embodying. And I think some of the more feminine qualities of leadership would be about deeply listening, like being soft, being subtle, Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to like break it down into maybe masculine and feminine terms. Yeah, because I think of like a great leader itself. Like, what is a great leader? A leader knows where they're going. They're having a great time going there, and they're bringing people together to go together, and like that's what leadership is. And I think you learn so much through going someplace and bringing others with you, because maybe people don't like your leadership, so they want to lead. Like, can you actually unite people? Can you create the space, the power, the generative force? And then I think we can talk about these like secondary and important integrated qualities of leadership, like how deeply you listen, how deeply you listen to your woman, or, listen to your friends. I think there's a great balance point here, because oftentimes like, a woman doesn't always want her man to just like listen to whatever she says. She actually wants him to lead in deeper ways, right? It's the same thing like within community. And I think one of the great problems of our world right now is that our leaders are basically like playing to the whims of whatever is going to get them reelected in the next 4 years, or whatever people like the most right now, which isn't actually what is best for the people. It's not, oh, we're going to cut the deficit. No, we're going to print more money and spend more money so that the economy's better when I leave office, so that I get reelected so I can crash the ship faster. It's insane, So I think like leadership does require making hard decisions, but also having the respect to do so. And like, I think that respect does come from maybe some of these softer qualities. Yeah. There's a lot on leadership. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Yeah.
So I want to maybe speak to this question that we've been talking about of what it is to embody leadership we were sort of talking about it in terms of masculine and feminine traits. And on that topic, I would probably mention some of these practices, like circling, are essentially like gym, but for listening as a skill. It's like, oh, you can break down that deep listening into particular micro skills and then practice with other people so as to develop them, so as to be a better leader. Like, it's pretty much that simple. But then I agree with you that like the masculine and feminine framing is maybe not capturing some of what we mean by good leadership. And I thought of like readjusting it to yin and yang. So like leaders as those who follow and embody the Tao, and it's this, if I use, for example, the act of breathing, well, it's this, that there's in the inhale, energy going in toward the center of our being. And then at the same time, there's also the exhale, energy going out toward the outside, toward the exterior. And I think these are also built in to practices. The way that a leader conducts themselves is that they periodically go into meditation. They go into themselves. They find their vision, their inspiration. And then they bring that back out to the community. And they have this balance of like giving themselves to whatever's around them, but also returning to the core, the center of their strength.
Yeah.
And it's this creating this breathing dynamic, this flow between yin and yang, that this is what it means to me, at least in part, to embody leadership.
Yeah.
Can I add something without being part of this interview? Okay. But isn't like yin and yang like just synonymous with masculine and feminine? Exactly like out breath and in breath.
Yeah.
And then also I think you mentioned like connection